I was asked to make a custom sculpt of a parasitic twin face for somebody's Halloween costume. She saw a piece that I had done in the past on my friend James, where I did a parasitic twin on the side of his head. But she asked me to make a custom piece that was one-eyed, that was feminine and whatnot. Here it is right here. So I decided to make a video instruction on how to apply this piece. This is an encapsulated gelatin appliance, and the reason I made it this way is because I wanted to make sure she had really nice edges to work with. Gelatin doesn't normally give the best edges, so by encapsulating it in this very thin plastic, I was able to get a nice edge. Okay, so this piece has this edge to it, which is called flashing. And when you get pieces like this that have these kinds of edges that need to melt away, it's important that you keep the flashing attached because it's going to help us keep our edges nice and taut. So the kind of glue I'm going to use is called Prozaid. It's a professional glue. I get it in a really big bottle and then I usually break it up into smaller bottles. So the particular plastic that I used is Baldy's, and Baldy's is dissolvable by acetone. So I have this gigantic can of acetone that I got from the hardware store. It's the main ingredient in fingernail polish, but I don't like to use fingernail polish because it has other additives that cause it not to work the way it's supposed to. So if you can get your hands on some pure acetone, I would suggest you do so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue all along the back side of this appliance, but I'm not going to go to the edges here. I'm just going to go up until I reach the edge because we're going to be melting those edges away. Now with Prozaid, you're going to want to have a remover and the Prozaid remover, generally I like to use isopropyl myristrate, or IPM as we like to call it. It's one of the only things that really dissolves this glue very well. Okay, now I've got all the glue on the back side, and as my old teacher Ray would say, if it's white ain't right. So if you still see it's white, you have to let it dry. So I'm going to give this a minute. Okay, so the glue is dry, so I just started laying this on my face. You just press it onto your face once the glue is dry. I'm working on making sure all of these edges are down. Now this one's really close to my eye right here. So we're going to be extra careful there. When we melt the edge, we want to be careful not to get any of the chemical in the eye. Acetone in the eye can be quite irritating, as well as alcohol in the eye. You want to be careful not to glue the flashing to your face because you want that to fall off as you melt the edges. So I'm going to be using this brush with this little angled tip to melt the edges away. Okay, so I'm going to start up here. I'm just going to start moving the brush away from the prosthetic. And you see that melts that right away. You want to be careful not to use too much because the acetone will go, it'll drip underneath and on top, and it'll start stripping away the encapsulate from the actual gelatin piece. And then it'll make the edges that much harder to blend. So when the flashing gets a little floppy, so I like to, as I work, I like to cut away the extra flashing so that it doesn't weigh the piece down and pull it away from the face or cause bubbles or wrinkles in the edge. Come on, you. There we go. Because what I want to do is hold the flashing like this while I try to melt the edge away. And I'm looking in the mirror because I want to make sure I'm actually doing a decent job of this. And as you can see, as the edge melts away, it's almost imperceptible. Continue doing that all around the edge. And like I said, I like as the flashing gets longer, I like to cut it away so the weight of it isn't pulling it down. This is where we want to be really careful because this is very close to my eye. And I have to be careful to close my eye while I melt these edges. That edge ain't so bad. Okay, cut this weight off. And continue blending these edges. And I'm just pushing away from the prosthetic towards the flashing. In the thinnest part, you could see where the thinnest part is from the sculpt to the edge of the flashing, and that's the edge that you want to melt. I'm just going to keep going all the way around. But you can see, you can't see the edge. This is a little bit of a lengthy process, as you can see, but it's worth it for the invisible edge. Okay, I finished taking off all of the flashing and blending it in, and as you can see, the seam is pretty much invisible. You can tell the color doesn't quite match my face. You can use regular makeup. This is an RMG palette that I have, and I scoop some out here. And your 99% alcohol. Spray that into your makeup. And you've created an alcohol-based makeup. What we're going to do is, with a chip brush that I've cut the top off of, I'm going to make this very, very watery so that you don't see the makeup. It retains its translucency this way. You're going to want to close your eyes for this so you don't get in your eyes. Now I like to use my Real Color palette and my Skin Illustrator palette, but these things are about $75 a piece, which if you don't have use for them other than small stuff like this, then you could just use regular makeup, Halloween makeup, whatever. You use your 99% alcohol and make your own makeup. So the colors that I like to use to make things look fleshy, besides flesh tone, because there's a lot of different colors in your face. Notice I've got all sorts of red tones going on here. There's some blue tones going here. There's more than just one color in everyone's face. So these three colors, yellow, red, blue, from my Illustrator palette, are the three that I like to use the most. I've already got my brushes all cut for these. I like to start with my red color. And again, very translucent. This is too dark. We want to lighten that up. Make it very watery. And we're going to fleck this at the face. Now I'm going to concentrate on getting it here because this is very yellow and I want to neutralize that yellow. I like to dab my finger on it a little bit just to make sure there's no big spots. Now it looks nice and red, right? So the next color we're going to do is blue. We're going to make this even more watery than the red. Okay. Okay, and then the last color that I use is the yellow, and the yellow is the color that ties it all together for me. And then once we do this, we're going to go back over it with the flesh tone. And I'm going to use something that matches my own skin tone. Okay. Even going to start painting on my own skin here. Now we're going to top it off with skin tone. I'm going to use the same skin tone from this that we used before. Very watery, and then okay, so now it's time to remove it. So I put my isopropyl murostate in a bottle like this, and I'm going to pour it onto this sponge. Let it soak up into the sponge. Sponge starts to mutate. Be very careful, you don't want to get it in your eye. You don't want to mix this with alcohol either, so don't try to use alcohol to try to get this off and then the isopropyl. And this just breaks down the Pros-Aide that you just put on your face. If you used any extra Pros-Aide to seal up any large gaps that you had or bad seams that you had, you're going to want to be rubbing this around for quite some time. Unfortunately, I didn't have to do that because I did a pretty good job applying it. Alright, all clean. Now you're going to want to wash your face. Bye, parasitic twin.